Hey guys, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and I'm here to talk about lasers. I just got in a brand new FL690, and I am excited to put it together and add some accessories, see what I can do with it. I know the first plan is to start cutting acrylic for my dust boots. So yeah, let's go. All right, I'm going to do this in several parts. Since this is a big machine, this is actually the biggest and most expensive tool I have in my shop now, which is exciting and scary at the same time. But let's discuss a few things about the machine. It is 600 by 900 bed size, which is perfect for a 2x3 sheet of acrylic, which I've ordered tons of that. It is a 100-watt laser, but it usually run at about 90 watts is the peak. I think that's the rating for it. Usually I'll be running it for a little less than that, but hopefully I'll get some really good speeds out of it. I don't mind putting acrylic in there, walking away, let it do its thing, and then come back hours later, check it out, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. But there are a couple of things I want to talk about with the machine. So first, here it is. It is, let's see, I got a little Post-it note here. It is 59 inches wide by 40.9 inches high, about waist height. I'm 6'2", so about waist height for me. Then of course it is 43.3 inches deep. Now the key thing about the deep measurement is it does not compensate for the additional space in the back that you need for routing hoses and such. I'll switch over to a close-up and let you see what's going on. So for the initial look here, this is the main axis and the work area that we're going to be playing with. Obviously I can spin this down in case I have boards that pop out further. I've done tons and tons of research on this. I really like this particular machine. It fits my power settings and the space that I have available. But essentially what we have here is a CO2 laser, right? So there's a laser tube in the back, or there will be when we install it. The laser shoots out horizontally, hits a mirror there in the back corner, comes forward to another mirror mounted on the left side of the gantry here. That mirror redirects it over to this mirror, which redirects it down through a lens which concentrates the beam down to something that can actually cut down here at the bottom. Now of course I've got everything unplugged, cleaned up, it's ready for installation and that sort of thing, so I can freely move the gantry back and forth out of the way and such. I'm going to move this out. Now remember, it does produce electricity when you move steppers, so just go slowly. This particular model, I picked it up because it's got two beds. It has a small grid bed which allows for cutting smaller pieces. And underneath that, I'll pull this out. There it goes. Underneath that is a grid, or I'm sorry, not a grid, a steel, I forget exactly what they call it. These are basically steel pieces. All of mine are scratched up. They're being replaced. There was some damage whenever I brought it in. Someone locally apparently took their forklift and popped it right through the bottom, and these were stored underneath. So I tried to bend these back as best I can. They're all scratched up and horrible, so they will be replaced. But essentially I could put big pieces here and go ahead and cut through them, and whenever it cuts through that, the pieces will basically just break off and sit there or fall down through the catcher down below. And I will back up and let's take a look at that. These are all the working areas of the machine. So if I were to open up this piece down here, there is underneath, I could pull out the clean out tray. This is where any soot, debris, pieces that you might have that break off, this is basically your trash catch. So the very first thing I did was add in a couple of furniture felt pieces just to make it nice and smooth, prevent any scratches to the paint and that sort of thing. It's, it was hardly worth mentioning, but I really like little improvements to make that improve the quality of the machine. But, so one of my first upgrades is I'm going to do is, this does run light burn, or I can run light burn to run this machine. So I've picked up a light burn 8K camera. I will be mounting it right behind the handle here. That way it has a complete view of the bed. And with that view, I can do various things. And there'll be follow-up videos for that sort of stuff. But really neat things. Like I can take my kids' artwork, is one of the videos that I saw, and take a picture of it. And I can actually take that, bring it into Lightburn, and run cuts and that sort of thing from it. So that's super cool. There is an LED in the back. I have a feeling I will be running some LED strips along the inside so I can get a much better view. I like light, lots and lots of light. So obviously I haven't turned this on, but all the controls are here. We've got an emergency stop and of course the laser switch. Down here on the side, it's really hard to see. Let me see if I can move you around here. So it's really hard to see, but there are 3 switches in the back. They can be controlled individually here in the front. USB plug-in for bringing over files or running them directly, and of course the network port. But let's go around the back and take a look. All right, so here we are around the back. Up here we have our where the tube will be installed. I'll have a video on that, or at least a section of it, something. There's a place here where I can access the back. This is for pieces that might stick through, thinner pieces that may stick through in order to burn on the inside there. Back here we have our electronics, or at least our power anyways. And of course the laser power, that's all controlled down here. Cables run up there. We'll get more in depth, more into detail about some of this stuff. Over here on this side is our smoke exhaust, or our pass-through anyways. This is a 6-inch hole on the FL690. There's also a corresponding 6-inch hole on the just above the receiver catch for the debris. That basically comes from there right into this receiver port here. The pass-through comes here, and then of course you usually go into either the suction fan. They've got an industrial size, something that's god awful loud. The very first modification I've got is I've got a 6-inch AC Infinity inline fan coming. The goal is to go straight from that output there, from the smoke catcher there, go into the fan, out the fan, through here, which means the only thing left to do on this side is direct that flow of smoke out and up a chimney or something like that. I'm going to be investigating from that part, but I do want that AC Infinity in there, out of the way, easy to get in there and access it if I need to, but that way it reduces the footprint of the machine. Over here on the left side or the right side is the plug for the chiller. We have a CW 5000 chiller over here. I'll show you that in just a second. Air pump. The air pump is for basically an air assist. So if you're cutting something with a laser, whatever is right there at the heated point, right on your material, that needs to be evacuated very quickly so that it doesn't, 1, catch fire, and 2, disturb or affect the quality of your product, of your end product. So what they do is they have a little air assist, a pointer right here, or the tube basically goes from there all the way up through the machine, over to the gantry, and at the head, and points down at an angle so that whenever the laser shoots down, hits the material, the air assist will blow that material, that smoke, the little debris, the things that might come off from it, the soot and such, blows that out of the way so that so when the laser moves, it's got a really clear, clean area. Basically very similar to my dust boot, but instead of sucking all the debris out of the way, the air assist will basically blow it out of the way. Of course, there is a water in and a water out. Since it does use the chiller, about 2 gallons of distilled water for that, 3 gallons for the larger size is what I've researched, and that essentially helps cool down the laser because it does obviously get very hot. So over here on the other side of the machine, we have our 110 port. This is basically a very standard 3-prong computer style port there that actually plug the whole machine into. We have air for the electronics, which is on this left side, or I guess the right side from the front. But over here are the 3 plugs. These are kind of universal international plugs. These will work just fine for our American plugs here, ground, and of course the left and the right prongs here. So there's 3 plugs available here. They're all switched there in the front. We have circuit breakers for the whole thing, and of course a grounding wire so we can make sure everything is any electrical discharge is properly gotten rid of. So let's jump around to another part of the machine. All right, so right here on if you're facing the machine, the left side, the chiller and water and all that stuff's over here. We have easy access to the gantry, the mirror here on this far side here. I guess this would be the second mirror. The first mirror being back here and behind this panel. We can access all of that from there, the belts and such. Down here below, we have access to the tubes to make sure those are all intact. We have access to our Z, which is variable. There's a motor which allows us to raise and lower the actual Z of the machine. What it does is it lowers the actual parts versus lowering the actual head of the laser. Very similar to our CNC machines, but in this case, the actual part is moved up and down. And of course, there's quite a bit of travel here available, all belt driven by stepper motors down here in the bottom, all connected into the electronics. So it's pretty clean down here, which does give us some room that we can do some really small stuff, maybe an inch or 2 up from the bottom. We'll have to look into what options I have, what accessories I might come up with to utilize some of this space. I'm going to turn the machine around. Since I am in my tiny little 2-car or 3-car garage, I'm going to flip it around and we will take a look at the other side. All right, so just in case you wanted to know, I have not installed the tube yet. I'm doing that. I'm waiting to do that until I actually level and place the static feet on my machine. I don't want to be moving around the machine while the tube is in position. I don't want anything to become discharged or out of alignment or whatnot. So we're going to wait until I get that all in place, and then, or the machine completely in place, and then I can install the tube, and we'll do a video on that too. So our upper panel, just like on the other side, allows us access to the cable chains, the wiring. This side of the gantry, obviously if we pull the gantry forward, we can see all that in there. Down here on the bottom is a very interesting place. It has tons of electronics. So we have our main controller board for the laser. We have our stepper motor controllers here. We have some power supplies and various things. Of course, our plugs are right over there, and of course there's some pass-throughs. So these 3 things, the Ethernet, the E-disc, the USB disc, in case you walk up with a disc, and then of course the USB plug for the actual PC. So you got the U-disc, which is your actual USB drive. You can walk up just like on a modern day printer. And of course the USB to plug it into an actual computer. And of course if you wanted to access it via the network, that'll be interesting. Obviously, I'm going to be isolating that on a secure network and that sort of thing. I don't want to be plugging that into my normal network, just for cybersecurity reasons. That's a whole different topic, whole different video series. But yeah, this little panel is nice. I can add some additional electronics, even run some wiring and that sort of thing, or even extra power supplies or whatnot. Have all that in there. There's plenty of room on that side, or on this side for that sort of thing. And yeah. So excuse the mess. I have got basically everything all kind of laid out in some sort of form and fashion so I can understand what's going on. So the machine does come with an air pump. This pumps out, from what I understand, about, let's see, it's really hard to tell here. I think I read somewhere that it was 3 to 5 psi. Not a whole lot. I'm not sure if that is accurate. It may be a little more. I understand the hose and such can handle about 50, and usually about 40 psi is what they recommend to spit out right there at the laser to kind of keep the area clean. So I am looking into upgrading this guy immediately to, I've been looking at the California Air something. I'll post a link. For they're looking at their 20-gallon. That would fit nicely right next to, in between the garage doors, which is perfect because it's literally right next to the machine. It's a 20-gallon. It should last quite a long time. It is also super quiet. So we could actually be recording, it could be running, and it keeps everything nice and quiet. Much different compared to my Pancake, the small little air compressor I've had thus far. So I'm excited to get that in. So that's 3 upgrades we've talked about so far. First one being the camera system for light burn. The second one being the AC Infinity inline 6-inch ultra quiet air extractor, so we can pull the smoke and such out. Obviously, I've got to run wires, and that's actually what this is for here. So it does come with an air assist. I'm sorry, not air assist. It is air evacuator or smoke extractor, and it is this beast. So this guy is slightly smaller than my Harbor Freight 2-horsepower dust collector. So being that it's probably going to be just as loud, and the research that I've done shows that this thing is pretty loud. That's why I'm switching to the AC Infinity for pure quiet. I want it quiet. I want to be able to run this in the middle of the night when my boys are in bed, and I can't be making a lot of noise out here. So yeah, the inline AC. Then, of course, the California Air compressor, the 20-gallon. That should bring plenty of PSI right there at the tip. I am going to need, there's a built-in regulator in it, but I will need to add a water, something to pull the water out of the air, out of the actual line. So a drop or something, I'm not sure. I've got to, as I'm very beginning of this particular upgrade. For now, I am just going to start out with this guy, let it be loud, but the inline AC Infinity, that one should be here in a couple of days. Of course, I've got one upstairs, and I'll probably just borrow it from up there, and that was for my 7-watt that I was running on my XXL. So, of course, we've got various tubes to go from this guy over to the back of the machine, plugs in there in the back. We've got a couple of extra power supplies here, lots of tape and such. We have 3 extra mirrors and looks like an extra compression disc. I think it's extra. I really got to dig into it and see what's going on. The mirror, I do know there are mirrors already installed. We'll have to look into aligning that perhaps. Here's the actual machine's power cord. Here's some 6-inch line for inside the machine and outside the machine for extracting all the dust and such. They did provide several band clamps for that. Pull that out of the way. Of course, I haven't showed you the chiller, industrial chiller yet. But here are the tubes for that, the water tubes, as well as the wiring. And then, of course, we have the power cord for that, and that will go into one of those accessory holes on the side. USB to go from the side of the machine into your laptop or whatnot. And of course in here, we have lots of extras. So we have a couple of extra proximity switches. There is, yeah, we'll dig into that later. Got an actual USB drive. Who knows, there might be a couple of extra, or I'm sorry, some sample programs we can run on that. We'll see. Some sample G code. We have an extra emergency stop switch, some extra wire, looks like a couple of focus rulers, so I'm not quite sure how to use those yet. We'll have to figure it out. I'm literally starting fresh. I have no idea how any of this works, so hopefully you can learn with me. This, I have no idea what it is. Looks like a light of some sort, but I'm pretty sure it's not just a light. It may be a laser beam so we can actually keep track of things. I don't know. We'll figure it out. A networking cable, looks like about, what, 20 feet, 12 feet maybe. And of course some hex wrenches. And then let's see, we do have self-bonding rubber tape. When I was doing a little bit of research, we wrapped the laser tube, or maybe it's the other way around, wrap the bracketing or something, to hold on to the laser so we don't damage it. I'm guessing that's to provide a little insulation between the actual mounting of the tube and the tube itself, probably for moving it around and such. Of course, the pump here, it also came with a couple of basically a splitter, so we can split out that signal. We don't really need to do that. That's probably just because it was its own product, came in a box and all that stuff. Let's see, what else do we got? We have what looks like electrical tape, maybe? Oh, double-sided tape, it looks like. And then the very last thing, and this is something I upgraded with, and I understand there are several on the market. This is the one that came with the actual machine whenever I ordered it from Coco. This is the rotary attachment tool. So the rotary itself gets pulled over, tighten that down, put whatever round thing on here. There's a stepper motor over here which turns that cup or circular object so that the laser can get a nice good cut on it anywhere around the diameter of that round device. But yeah, hopefully that was good enough for an initial tour. I'm still figuring this out. I did get it off the pallet. That was insane. So yeah, I'm sure it's a rite of passage getting this thing in and off the pallet, out of the box. It's insane. It's a lot of cheap little shattering wood that it came with. Yeah. Needless to say, I had to take 2 loads of trash to the dumpster just to take care of everything and get it back to an actual working garage. So yeah, hopefully I can record these other videos, and yeah, this should make my dust boots even better. I mean, I'm excited to get this into my arsenal and start making some more accessories for CNC machines and such. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. As always, don't just own your CNC, dominate it.